What's up everyone, it's me, Retrovin, and I thought we'd do another review. This time we're going to be reviewing the Crash Bandicoot N. Sane trilogy. But more specifically, we're going to be doing the first one, starting with the original and then doing the second and third, of course. Without further ado, here we go though. I am very excited to do this. So the game starts off with Cortex doing many experiments on all these creatures, one of them being Crash. They had serious hope that Crash was going to be able to be a super soldier, but in the end he ended up being a failure and actually escaped out the window. So the game starts off on Insanity Island. You have your basic spin move, you have your jump, and that's literally about it. I guess you also have triangle for inventory if you want to see stuff, but that's literally about it in terms of the, move set. So I guess we can get on to like some of the other stuff. This review's not going to be super long, to be honest. It's just mainly going to be me talking about why I love this game so much. Otherwise, you have a very fair selection of levels. You have the first island, which is about like 10 or so levels, I believe. The second island's the same. The third island's the biggest part of the game, so that's got like probably 18 to 20 levels. I could be, actually no, maybe not that much, but it's got more than the other two islands, I'd say. Probably not by a ton, but especially by length, you can kind of notice it. The environments themselves are very beautiful, especially places like upstream. As you can see the waterfall and all the water just dribble down. It's very beautiful, honestly, and mainly it's because it's the remake, so I guess that's not really much to say. But the original also looked beautiful as well. Environment-wise, it was pretty interesting to see the game go from a jungle environment to a ancient ruins environment, and then do like I guess like a distorted factory sort of environment. And it almost shows the difference as Crash goes through the game, because at first it seems peaceful. He's on a peaceful island, then he goes to a jungle with a lot of dangerous creatures. Then he goes to a village and he meets like all these tribesmen. And then like from that point on, that's when he goes to like all the ancient ruins, and then he finds the factories. It's a very interesting selection of levels, and even though I personally prefer the sequels, I will say they don't have that same adventure feel that the first game felt, because with the first game, it really felt like you were going on an adventure, You were going to all these crazy different areas, and you're actually on a journey, because it got more desolate and more dangerous as you went on. And that's not something I really hear most people talk about Crash 1 for, but I thought that was a cool thing to note, because it's just something I noticed, at least recently, about the game. The game also has a map system, so throughout the game you basically move across the map to each level, and that's a traverse between them all. The sequels didn't do that either, and not really too big of a deal, but I do personally like the maps a lot, so it is too bad that they didn't keep them. I was happy to see them in Crash 4, so obviously, as you could tell, I actually really kind of enjoyed the maps in the first game, because, again, like I said with the levels, it adds to that sort of adventure feel. Some basic things I should probably also mention in the game is, there's certain things you have to do to get gems. And gems are basically the main things you want if you want to get the 100% ending. And to get the gems, you have to get all the boxes in each level. Now, at least for the N. Sane Trilogy version, most levels don't require you to, not die once. But there are a few levels with the colored gems where they kept that. In a way, it kind of sucks because I don't want to have to do them, but I'm happy that they kept the same spirit from the original game with that sort of gem counting system, because, again, you wouldn't have the difficulty of that if they didn't keep it in, I'm just happy they didn't keep it in the entire game. Now, the first game itself is brutal, because that one made it to where if you do die once in any level, you could not get the gem. So I'd say for people who want to have, I guess, maybe a better beginner sort of feel with the first game, I would try the N. Sane Trilogy version, because you'd probably have a funner time trying it out. And that's coming from somebody who usually tends to prefer the PS1 version of the game. Other sort of things they collect include the Tana tokens, the Embryo tokens, and the Cortex tokens. Now, what are those, you may ask? Well, the Tana tokens were originally used to save the game when it was on the PS1 version. In the Insane Trilogy version, the Tana tokens are mainly used to get all the boxes. So, in the original game, you didn't have to get the boxes in the bonus round, but now, kind of more akin to the sequels, you actually have to get all the boxes in said bonus round to get, you know, the gem and everything. The Embryo bonus rounds are basically used to get the same sort of thing, get all the boxes. I think in the original game you also had to use that to save, so it wasn't too much different from the Tana bonus rounds. The Cortex tokens, on the other hand, were a bit different. You actually had to use those to get keys to other levels. And those other levels were basically Whole Hog and Fumbling in the Dark. Those levels you actually had to unlock, which I think Crash 2 Crash 2 did have something like that as well. Another thing, too, is in this version of the game, you can actually swap between Crash and Coco. Coco has no difference from Crash. It's almost more like a gender swap, if anything. And that's not a big deal. It's just, you know, girl Crash, basically. But it's cool, you know? It's nice that they give you an option between the two characters, even though gameplay-wise, they're really not that different. Now, of course, during this review, I didn't want to forget to mention the boss fights, of course. So the boss fights are all very interesting and have a unique style to them. Again, it's unique, but it is also basic at the same time. So basically, you know, there's like a different sort of pattern they have that's all separate from one another. And you have to figure out that pattern. Like with the pinstripe fight, once you wait for him to shoot his guns, as he's kind of like tiptoeing all the way over there, you have to hit him as he's doing that. So basically, you got to think on your toes with those. And various other fights, like the Koala Kong fight, involve hitting rocks at him, or the Papu Papu fight involves jumping on him. That kind of basic stuff, which is really cool. Now, music-wise, this is kind of a tough one, because I don't really prefer the Insane Trilogy music compared to the original music. But it still sounds good as it is. I'll give you guys a listen to a few of them, just so you guys can maybe get a feel for how good they are. They're still good, even though they're not as good as the original game. Well, everybody, I know this was a bit of a shorter review than usual, but there wasn't really a ton to talk about Crash-wise, since compared to the Jak games especially, it's quite short. But overall, it's a very solid game, even the HD version still has the flaws of the original game, which I imagine was the intention because it was a straight-up remake, so of course it's gonna have those same issues. But it would have been nice if they improved on it, so I would have loved to see something like that. Either way, though, it's still a pretty solid game, and, you know, for beginners especially, I would say try the Insane Trilogy version over the original. But if you want the true Crash experience, I would play the original. Anyways, that's Retrovin, and I'll see you guys in the next video, and I'm out. Peace.